Hello, dear friends. Time is the most valuable thing we have. That's why I am summarizing the information. Opinion piece. Journey's end. Maturation. Avoiding panic. Desensitization. Theological crisis. Meta-disclosure. Civilisational shift. Disclosure with purpose. Anchoring the transition. A century of reparation. A futuristic world of mystery and hope. Let's start. Every journey has an end, after a long-term strategy to reach a definitive goal, according to Orson Scott Card, author of the novel Ender's Game. The story unfolds in a future where Earth has suffered two insectoid invasions. To prevent a third invasion, the international fleet recruits gifted children and trains them for a young age at an orbital military school called Battle School. The current macroeconomic upheaval represents the controlled demolition of an obsolete system. Those who read the signs of the times recognize that this crisis is the necessary birthplace for a new collective consciousness and unprecedented planetary wealth. Gatian Daniel explains the orchestrated foundation for this civilisational shift. Meta-disclosure is the deliberate and strategic dissemination over decades of previously isolated topics such as science fiction, in order to desensitize the collective consciousness and prepare humanity to process the future revelation of these realities without fear, thus avoiding mass panic and theological crisis. A paradigm shift of this magnitude, encompassing the confluence of a global systemic collapse, with the release of revolutionary physics and the admission of non-human intelligence, cannot be managed reactively. Superpowers and strategic planning personnel operate on generational timelines. To prevent historical mass panic and a theological crisis, humanity's collective consciousness has been deliberately desensitized through decades of predictive programming in the media and Hollywood. For decades, science fiction themes such as artificial intelligence, advanced robotics, and extraterrestrial presence were isolated so that humanity could process them without fear. The maturation of this campaign is evident in 2026, when the media and high-profile whistleblowers calmly expose the presence of biological species on Earth, without producing results, and social peace remains stable. The population reacts with acceptance rather than panic. The ultimate cultural achievement of this strategic conditioning is manifested in Steven Spielberg's highly anticipated epic film, Disclosure Day. This filmmaker, who has maintained close ties with government circles for decades, provides the visual narrative to anchor this transition in the public eye, not as a threat, but as a cosmic liberation and an evolutionary necessity. Tangible facts demonstrate that the technological basis for the new era has long existed and has been researched through reverse engineering. These patents described compact fusion reactors, mass inertia reduction systems, and modifications to space and time. The Navy released these patents with the explicit justification that they are strategically essential to stay ahead of geopolitical rivals like China. The Quast Doctrine reveals that a technology exists to wirelessly radiate any form of energy from Earth to space or vice versa. Wireless energy transfer breaks the principle of resource scarcity and renders geopolitical choke points like the Strait of Hormuz obsolete overnight. The transition is not being planned in the shadows. Its physical nervous system is already visibly emerging before your eyes. The visible foundation is a triumvirate of government, technology, and infrastructure. We are witnessing a closely coordinated alliance between government, media, and technology. New system. Charlie Ward highlights the people's divine global monetary system and proposes a shift from an economic based on scarcity to another one of shared abundance, rooted in spiritual awakening and individual sovereignty. But don't be fooled by the word monetary. This isn't just an update on cryptocurrencies or banking. It's a proposal for a transition to a new world monetary system, a new paradigm of global abundance. Then, a successful entrepreneur turned advocate for systemic change, argues that our current global problems, poverty, disease, and social division, are not unavoidable. Instead, he posits that they are the predictable outcome of a financial system based on scarcity. The Divine Earth Management Global System aims to revolutionize this model. Rather than relying on a traditional currency, which fluctuates based on depth and control, this system is based on the shared and equitable ownership of the planet's resources, infrastructure, and businesses. The fundamental principle is to harm no one. By grounding economic interaction in divine law rather than man-made legal loopholes, the goal is for humanity to move from a state of subsistence to another one of collective prosperity. The vision that Tim and Charlie Ward embody is not limited to economics. It is spiritual awakening. The speakers emphasize that true freedom begins with individual sovereignty, the understanding that every human being possesses intrinsic value that no government or corporation can grant or take away. Perhaps the most striking aspect of the conversation is its spiritual foundation. Both speakers discuss how the transition to this system is inseparable from an awakening of consciousness, and they underscore that the Christian faith serves as a moral compass for this transformation. This is not about traditional politics or nationalism with defined borders. It is a movement that seeks to transcend these divisions, uniting people from all over the world through the shared recognition that we live in a cycle of spiritual warfare against systems of oppression. They argue that by orienting our consciousness toward abundance and faith, we can effectively dismantle the old restrictive structures. The transition to the new divine system is conceived as a grassroots movement. It begins with awareness, personal determination, and collective action. Then describes practical mechanisms such as registering agreements on a specific platform and leveraging social media to circumvent traditional and restrictive narratives. The central message is one of urgency and optimism. Freedom is not something we wait for. It is something we create. It is possible to overcome the limitations of our current financial system. Can we build a world where abundant resources are the norm for every human being? The dialogue offers a fascinating perspective for those who believe the current system no longer serves the common good. This conversation invites us to rethink our role in the global economy and our mutual responsibility. Reset News. Jeff Bezos is funding the search for the brain's core algorithm. Jon Stewart exposes secret live footage of aliens from the military and much more. Sean Stone talks about possessed politicians, dark rituals for gaining power, secret societies and the occult. The famous hacker group Anonymous has announced that it will soon release all the files related to Jeffrey Epstein, promising to reveal each individual involved. Calm before the storm, according to Joseph Tittle. We have entered a much lighter energy, with less hustle and bustle, and more emotion and intuition. The energy of the coming weeks. People emerging from sewers, toxic mosquitoes, and much more. Edward wants to rule the world according to Jerry Gomez. Everyone wants to rule the world according to Jerry Gomez. All the factions vying for control of the earth are acting simultaneously at the moment of convergence. The train of revelation has already left the station. In the spring of 2026, this pattern will manifest itself openly on an unprecedented scale and speed. The question is not whether it is moving, but where it is going, who is driving it, and who benefits. The author describes how the unfolding narrative doesn't lead to a single conclusion, but rather to at least two simultaneously, one version ending in cosmic ascension and contact with benevolent intelligence, and another one that acknowledges that what has been happening in the shadows is something far more sinister than the recovery of spacecraft. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.